Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I feel your support. Great to see you all. So, I don't know if you guys all had a chance to read the sort of the lead story in our newsletter this week, but Dan was talking about the fact that we recently moved and we're finally got all the boxes in, sitting around the the tables, drinking coffee in the morning, and trying to have a semblance of peace and the chaos. And in the mornings when we're reading coffee, sometimes Dan's reading the news, I'm reading the news, and we're all mixing other things in. And Dan mentioned a story that he was reading about teachers and students going back to school, and about how a lot of the older teachers are just simply chosen to retire. So there's a teacher shortage, and it just had me thinking about how, well, first of all, many of us are teachers. I mean, I don't know exactly how many, but I can imagine about 4 or 5 people in our sangha are teachers, or have been teachers, or have spent time in the front of the room, kind of teaching the next generation of leaders and poets. Kind of a big job. It's an important job, and it's a job you get good at by doing it and doing it and doing it. And so I feel like, it's another thing that's changed. So anyway, it just really struck me, look, what's really abiding in this time with all these changes and all these things that are going on. And I looked at my practice, and I heard the sound of, appreciate your life, which is something that I've been working on this year, assiduous. Well, not this year. I mean, I'm working on it my whole life, right? I mean, aren't we all? But I'm really focusing on it, and I've just noticed recently that I actually can, just while sitting, just go, okay, now, now. So, how do we get there? How do we get to that place where we don't have to sort of mechanically push ourselves into now, but just really flow into it? And so I was looking for answers to that, and I heard appreciate your life, and I decided it's time to read that book. So I didn't get a printed version where it makes it hard for me to kind of highlight things and thumb through it, but I really want to share some things with you today from that book that I think are really important. And we all are seeing our different challenges in this time, and really, every part of life, every part of my life, every part of history, every part of books that I've read have been about challenges. And those are really they're really at the crux of our stories, of our life stories, and what we've learned and what we continue to learn from. Oh, the challenges. That's what's to be conquered. That's what's to be looked at and leaned into. If we're challenged by fear, we can either become really aggressive and angry and drive like maniacs, or whatever people are doing in the moment, or we can let people in traffic and just try a new way. But we need a basic organizing principle in our lives that we can go back to. And Zen is incredible. So that's why I'm here. And I just wanted to pass some of these quotes from Appreciate Your Life on to you. And these quotes are from Maezumi Roshi. It's actually, the book itself is a compilation of his teachings and his lessons and his sayings, and that his students put together after he passed, and he passed really early. And they did a great job. He did a great job. And in many of the quotes that I'm going to be sharing with you today, those are actually quotes that Maezumi took from Dogen Zenji from hundreds of years ago. And here I am doing the same thing. So it must be, it's a great path. I'm really happy to be on it. It's a huge amount of integrity in just that very fact. So I'd love to share more of this to you. One of the things that that Maezumi, in the very first part of the book, it's pretty much a primer on Zazen, and so many great tips on how to sit, how to honor your body, so your whole body is an instrument that's at play when you're sitting. You know, that we focus on the energy of the hara, which is, you know, the second chakra, or whatever you'd like to refer to it. But it's where, you know, we do this with our hands, and we're encircling that space. And then while we're doing that, we're bracing our legs so that our feet, the bottoms of our feet, the energy of them can be in connection with the hara. And this is energetic language that I had never actually seen in Zen Buddhism before, and I was really impressed with this. And I just really recommend that you go through this book when you get a chance, because it really helps me a lot. But the quote that I wanted to, before I went off on that tangent, the quote that I wanted to bring up that really just created a picture for me, it just provided this wonderful image, this short little film in my head, was Maezumi Roshi said that one of the things that Dogen Zenji used to say was that our mind is like a bucket of water. And you think about that bucket of water splashing around, and, you know, all the turbulence that can be inside of a bucket of water when you're carrying it somewhere. And that the best thing to do for your mind is to set the bucket down and allow it to be calm and clear. I'm happy to be a bucket of water and listen to that. And it helps me a lot. I wanted to give you just a tiny bit of history on Maezumi Roshi. I don't have that much. If I hope to in the future, but he began teaching Zen Buddhism in America in the early 1960s, which is another time in my lifetime where everything changed. And what was before was soon becoming different and being pushed into a new space. And this was when a lot of the Eastern religions started appearing in the West. And Maezumi Roshi is one of the Zen Buddhists that came to America. The other one is Suzuki. I think we've mentioned that before. Sorry to be repetitive, but it's just part of the description. And then his work of teaching in the early 60s led to the founding of the Zen Center of LA, also referred to quite often as ZCLA. And that took place in 1967. It was a couple of like 2 or 3 houses in an area of downtown LA, what's now called Koreatown on Normandy, if you haven't been there before. And it became a residential center for people who were taking the teachings of Zen Buddhism. Still is to this day. Maezumi was also the founding teacher of Yokoji Zen Mountain Center up in Idlewild, where Dan's going later too. And he built that in 1982, initially as a summer training center. And now it's, since 1995, Yokoji has been serving as a year-round Zen training center under the direction of Abbot Tenshin Fletcher Roshi.
Charles Fletcher.
Well, this is how it was written in the book.
Okay.
I know his name was Charles Fletcher as well, but I thought I'd go with the book. So, you know, we are the students of Maezumi students. And Prajna Heart Center is an affiliate of Yokoji, and it's available to each of us. If you ever feel that you want a place to go and spend a month, you know, or, you know, a week, or, you know, join their daily sitting, it's open to you. It's there for you. Not right now because of COVID-19, but it will be open to the public in the near future. And we look forward to that. So So what are we're looking at right now, you know, a lot of stuff's going on in our time. We have an international pandemic, which has changed a lot of things. We have fires threatening a record number of areas in California all at once. Even in my home state of Washington, we have fires, and I'm probably throughout the West. It's a season of fire, but it seems maybe on this 100 and plus degree day, maybe it seems a little bit hotter to think of it. We also are looking at a highly increased awareness of racial injustices and other forms of discrimination fall right behind that. You name it. But all of this is coming to a breaking point where, you know, the sides are against each other, but the voices are being heard by more people. Less people are asleep, more people are listening. It's just time. We don't even need to know why, other than that this is what's happening and we are part of it and we need to honor it. And we also have a very perplexing thing going on with our economy. The stock market's been going through the roof, and you know, joblessness is at a all-time high, and we know that businesses have failed and will continue to fail. Now, these are all worrisome factors. So how do we stay out of a chaotic state ourselves, and how do we get peace in this? And Maezumi Roshi said, there are no thoughts because there is no thinker. We are the thoughts that come up. There are no bird sounds because there are no concepts of bird sounds. I never thought of it. Instead, we are those sounds. We are the thunder and lightning, and sitting the whole universe is revealed. I want to read from a chapter, not the whole thing. Chapter sounds like a very long thing, but I think you'll enjoy this. It's stunning to me. The title is Close the Gap Between Yourself and Yourself. It starts out, we have a practice known as the paramitas. Paramita means to have reached the other shore, Dogen Zenji says. The other shore is already reached. In other words, the meaning of reaching the other shore is to realize that this shore is the other shore. This life is the unsurpassable realized life. There is no gap. So if there is purpose to our practice, it is to realize that this shore and the other shore are the same. The purpose is to close the gap. You might say, well, why bring up this shore and the other shore? Well, because we have to be aware of what is a common denominator for the mind. To have to see these things. We have to bring this up as a phenomena of the mind to be able to let it go. You can't just let go of everything. You have to, the mind has to have something to hang on to so it can let go. So this is the only thing that makes sense to me, because otherwise it would all just be automatically, we'd be born that way, and why would we be going through this suffering? Because we have to have these challenges. It's why we're here. How does a baby learn to get mom and dad's attention? By suffering. How do we learn to talk? By needing to talk, by needing to communicate, by forming the words that we hear around us and beginning to use them in orchestration with our life, with our breath. To reach is extra. To reach out to this other shore is extra. Until you realize that this shore where you stand, this life that you are living, and the other shore, the life of the Buddhas, are the same shore, you cannot appreciate your life to the fullest. In that sense, we can say that the purpose of practice is no purpose. If we have a purpose, then we have problems. We set up all kinds of goals and we reach for them. But the amazing thing is that the goal is right here, right where I'm sitting. We were on the starting line, and at the same time, we were already on the goal line. That's how I felt this morning. In other words, we are already living the Buddha's life, regardless of whether we realize it or not, regardless of whether we are new or old-time practitioners or old-time practitioners that started over again, like me. We are intrinsically the Buddhas. Yet until we see this, somehow we simply cannot accept that fact. We get stuck when we try to figure out this piece intellectually. From the intellectual point of view, the start and the goal must be different, as I was saying before. We just have to have, the mind needs those distinctions. Then what to do? There are as many different paths to realization as there are people, but we can say there are two basic ways. One way is to push ourselves to realize that our life is the Buddha's life. Another way is to simply let our life be the Buddha's life and just live it. Breathe in, breathe out. In a way, this is the difference between koan practice and shikantaza. But whichever practice you do, whatever your overall practice is, if you, like Ken and Andrea, have a wonderful background in Kundalini yoga. Andrea and I have been studying shamanism for years and practicing healing arts in that area. It's all good. It's all a way up, and it's all practicing the same thing of realization. This is one of the things I love about Zen Buddhism is that horizontal space that carries, it's a ribbon, it's a beautiful golden ribbon that carries us through in life, no matter who we are. As long as ideas are involved, regardless of how fine our ideas may be, this gap is there. So how are you practicing when you count your breaths? Just count breath after breath. Soon you will forget about counting and become the number. When you do shikantaza, just sit. When you do zazen, become zazen. When you work on koan, become the koan. Otherwise, regardless of how much you practice, you will not be satisfied. The pitfall is always within yourself. Everything is already here with you. This very body and mind is the way. You are complete to begin with. There is no gap. So stop thinking there is. So much I want to say. So chaotic for me. I hope I'm coming across okay. How do we do this? How do we see ourselves as the Buddha in this time? How do we relax enough to go there? Maezumi shares his teacher Koryo Roshi's favorite expression. When you breathe in, swallow the whole universe. When you breathe out the whole universe. In and out, in and out. Eventually you forget about the division between breathing in and breathing out. Even breathing is totally forgotten. You just sit with a sense of unity. If we'd all been sitting zazen with a sense of unity since March, would we know what has changed, disappeared, or bloomed in the wake of life as we knew it? How much would it matter in our lives? Well, I can tell you right now, I enjoy the heck out of all of you. I'm so grateful for you in my life. You know, I don't think it would have happened quite this way if we hadn't had this pandemic that separated us physically. But I'm with you now, and I'm really happy for that. It's been very incredibly powerful for me. Thank you so much. And, you know, changes will continue to occur. Excuse me for being, I'm very emotional lately, sorry. Changes will continue to take place. They always have. That's how things happen in the world. And chaos will continue to occur. Chaos is in nature, and we are nature. It's perfectly normal. And it's also perfectly normal to find ways to create order in all of this. And we have, I believe we're on our way. I really do. Maezumi said, we do not see that our life right here, right now is nirvana. Maybe we think nirvana is a place where there are no problems, no more delusions. Maybe we think nirvana is something very beautiful, something unattainable. We always think that nirvana is something very different from our own life. But we must really understand that nirvana is right here and it's right now. Truly, to be one with your life as the subtle mind of nirvana. That is a place that you have available to you in Zen Buddhism. And that is what subtle means. Something is subtle not because it's hidden, not because it's elusive, but because it's right here. Our life literally comes down to right now. What is now? Thank you. Any questions or?
Keep it right there.
So yeah, if anybody has questions or comments for Lori, you can unmute yourself. If you open up the participants panel by clicking participants, there's also a raise hand feature where you can click on that and it can see that you want to speak. But either way, we have a small enough number of people. Thank you, Lori.
Thanks.
And go for it, gang.
Lori, thank you so much for speaking. Please never apologize for being emotional, because that aspect of your personality is something that has allowed me truly in my own life to open up to people and trust people, and the beauty of your vulnerability has genuinely changed my entire life. So thank you.
Thank you.
And something that really stood out for me is when you talked about being a baby, and like needing that we need to suffer to grow and to become who we are, and that is something that I've experienced in my own life, and I'm grateful for all of the hardships that I have faced, because my life has opened up and become very beautiful as a result of that. And I agree, this COVID coming together with you all, there are silver linings, and this is really one of the beautiful things I think is allowing a lot of people to wake the hell up. So just thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Andrea, I can see you.
Well, I echo that. What I love. First of all, thank you for your Dharma talk today. I enjoyed it immensely. I love the vulnerability and your transparency, and I love when you make it comfortable to have that emotional response, and that's for me. I know that's my heart center cracking open, and I've studied a lot of practices. I've been through a lot of different things, and this practice has closed the gap of the different shores, and it continues. And I see me and you, and you and me, and I think that's the beauty of this practice, and having, been reading and learning. I'm just tremendously grateful to have some really amazing people to help me on this path, and I too been thinking about that with the fires and things that's going on politically and racial, and just driving, being a home health nurse and driving, and people are crazy out there. And I just sit back and drive very cautiously and allow it to all happen. And I just keep hearing that, listen, be aware, because this is a time of growth. and for me. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your share. That's really helpful. I really hear you. Anyone else? Dylan, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Hi. It's good.
The thing,
Good to see
oh,
your.
thanks. I guess the thing I always get stuck on. I mean, I've read that book and I try to use it in my life. But the thing I always get stuck on is why is there suffering? And, you know, if you're like a Christian, you're like, why is there suffering? Why would God let like a kid get cancer and die?
Mm-hmm.
So I've never like understood. I mean, I know Buddha said there's suffering because there's change. You know, I just don't understand like why are we born into suffering? It just seems like why would that happen? And you know, it seems like unjust in many instances. So that's something I always get stuck on in any religion or practice.
Well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I was raised in a very religious household. Maybe you can tell. I mean, you know, I went to church 3 times a week, it seems like. And you know, the kind of the phrase that came out of that is if anything ever happened to me that I couldn't explain and I didn't have the tools to really lean into and find what was really happening and what was in my mind, I would always say, well, what did I do to deserve this? That as if suffering, as if what is a natural life order was some kind of penalty, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And Dan used to always, because he didn't grow up in that kind of a religious home life necessarily. I mean, he had attended religion, but he wasn't, you know, really engaged in it on the level that my family was. And, you know, so he was always like, you and your sister are always saying that, like, what did I do to deserve this? Well, but that's the shape that we had. That was what our minds made of it. Was it right? No, I mean, I don't think you could really sit down with somebody from my past, like my mom and dad, and say that that was the intention of our lifestyle. But for some reason, I got that out of that. And I think it's probably a cultural piece that's really tied into the Judeo-Christian sort of diaspora. And I don't feel that way anymore. I really don't. I've had enough opportunities when you get to be 67, you've had maybe enough opportunities to go, why am I saying that 11 times? That doesn't help me. It doesn't help me to worry about there shouldn't be suffering. There is suffering. I can't deny it. There is suffering. There's the suffering, and there is the choice to just see it as that's the way it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that's helpful on some level, because that would have been so far-fetched to me in the past. But I gotta make some peace with this life, you know, and that really helps me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Buddha himself was very practical, and you know, he's like, we're in this world, and you know, there's suffering, and what are we going to do about it? I guess you're right. Like in Christianity, it's more like God made the world, and you're like, why did God do that? Why did God do this?
Right.
And then they say, well, you know, the Adam and Eve story or whatever, you know, this original sin is from, you know, eating the apple or whatever. So you're like, in Christianity, you look at the design of the world, And
Yeah.
you're like, why did God do that? So I guess Buddhism is different in the sense that you don't even go there. You're just like very practical. What is, and so I guess that's more the answer.
Yeah, and I think it's perhaps it's a universal factor that the mind works that way, because I've learned, it's been part of teachings in my many years as a Zen student, to hear the fact that everything that I'm aware of is created. And then the shamanistic realm was, we talked a lot about how you create your story of your life. So like if something happens to you, and this is also a landmark thing, a lot of these wonderful ribbons that tie together that I referred to earlier, there is a piece of living wherein, we create a story about something that's happened to us, and we start wrapping everything around that. And then the whole structure of how life works is based on that story. So it all fits together for us, and it makes it absolutely inescapable at times. And it's a madness that we have to let go of, we have to be aware of, and we have to allow the beauty of nature, of just sitting and having the breath, purify that piece so it can just be gone. I hope that's helpful for someone.
I really love what you said about COVID. And the thing is, as I've been going through the entire quarantine, is my life has been infinitely better, not necessarily because of it, but during this time, financially, my wife's business has been thriving because she's in the food industry, and that leads to a little bit of guilt because we are doing well, and I wouldn't have found Prajna Heart without it. There's just all of these things that have entered my life because of it that have been so wonderful. And today we were walking Mount Rubidoux out here in Riverside, and we ran into somebody that we used to sit with on Saturdays that we haven't seen since it started. And to have somebody really be so excited to see you, and it kind of, something hit me when we were talking. He asked us, well, how are you guys doing? And we told him, and he just expounded all of these stories about how all these people that we used to sit with when he would have these Saturday night sits have all been thriving, and everybody's lives is so wonderful. But the thing that dawned on me is that doesn't mean that they didn't lose a job. That doesn't mean they haven't had family members get sick, but every single person that's actively involved in their practice here has thrived. And what it was for me is the difference kind of, with the Four Noble Truths, hey, there's suffering. Everybody suffers. You don't have to, and here's how you get out of it. The idea that eventually got ingrained in me that hey, bad things are going to happen and there's going to be pain, but you don't have to suffer through it. There's a solution and there's a path out of it where you can just sit and be like, that was kind of uncomfortable. I don't really appreciate that, but it'll go away eventually. And on the same vein, when these wonderful things are happening, I could look at them and I could be, this is really wonderful right now, and I need to hold it as precious because it's not going to be here forever. And through that, regardless of what it is, it's a beautiful experience, whether it's uncomfortable or comfortable. Everybody coming here together, and this horrible thing of COVID happening and the wonderful thing of us meeting together is what makes this moment right now so beautiful. And I really with everybody saying about your emotions, I feel it. I have been so emotional, and it's so freeing to not have to hide that. So thank you very much.
That's very incredibly helpful, Mark. I love your description of, how this practice has been so helpful in that way. And hey, it can change day to day. I mean, we're just little by little, sit by sit, learning these wonderful things and learning to appreciate them. And thank you for appreciating this talk and me. And I'm very grateful, deeply touched. Sharma, it's good to see you here. I can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself? Just for a second. I just want to say hi. Do you know how to coach her to unmute?
Okay. Hi, Lori.
Hi.
Hey. Hi. It's so good to see you and Dan as well, and to hear you. Hello there. It's been a very long time. And when I was talking to Dan about getting closer and coming back in to practice, the idea just was so thrilling, the idea of connecting, because I talk to people every day, all day long. And it's fulfilling in its way, but I feel I need a place for me with others as not in a role, you know, as therapist. So this is just such a gift, and I'm just really excited to be part of something. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and you're so welcome to this group. We will embrace you, and
it's thrilling for me to thank you so much. And I really love how your emotions flow. That is something that it makes me feel safer, you know, because I have that, and I don't get to in a way really express it as much as I feel it. So thank you.
Thank you, Sharma. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Hi, Galen. Morning.
Hi, Lori. That was a wonderful talk this morning.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the message about the lack of gap in reality, and how closing the gap is kind of what the practice is about. And I appreciate that. For me, it's such an important message, and so hard to put across, so difficult to explain to people why they shouldn't be thinking about it, you know.
Right.
The discussion about suffering reminded me, I spent a lot of time at Yokoji, and one of the things that they found out that I could do is run a chainsaw, so they put me on a chainsaw for years up there. I cut a lot of trees down, and one afternoon I was just antsy and went back to work before everybody else did. So I was by myself, and I was up on a hill behind the kitchen, and I dropped a tree that was, I knew it was going to be where it was going to fall. I dropped it perfectly, and it bounced back and hit me. The stub of it came back off the ground, and it was about a foot round, and hit me right in the nose.
Oh, goodness.
And that would have been bad enough, except I was standing at the edge of the hill, and I began to fall backwards and tumble. And when I came to my senses, I was 40 or 50 feet below, sitting in the creek. And until I figured out I wasn't dead, and got up and walked around and went back up, turned the saw off, and then went up to Roshi's house. And he walked in and said, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" And took me in the bathroom, cleaned me up and everything. And so I stayed there for another couple of days before I went home. And I'd broken a rib or two, and was probably in shock, and certainly I've had enough concussions to believe that I probably had a concussion. And so a day later, after I'd gone back up and looked at this hill that I'd rolled down, and I saw the Roshi in the morning, and he came up and he said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "You know, if I was a religious man, I would believe after surviving something like that, that God must have a purpose for me. And you say, he does. He wants you to suffer more. and he laughed about like that and walked away. No, the thing is, the suffering, we think of it as rewards and punishment, and it's not. It's just the nature of existence.
Right.
It's really important, I think, for me to remember that the Four Noble Truths came after the Buddha's realization, after his enlightenment.
Right.
The enlightenment wasn't a way out of suffering. After the enlightenment, there is suffering.
Mm-hmm.
There is a cause.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way out of it, and here's the way. So
Amazing.
What an incredible, complete message. Thanks very much, Lauren.
Thank you. Thanks for your amendments and what a story. What a story. I can only imagine. That moment you woke up and realized you weren't dead.
Well, I wasn't sure when I woke up.
No, I know. I understand. Thank you so much.
That's why we're supposed to call each other Galen when we're on the chainsaws.
Yeah. And yeah, you got to have your chainsaw buddy with you. This one here. Carl, did you unmute? Did I see you unmute?
Not intentionally. I'm sorry. I'm in a loud place.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't want to miss your talk. Thank you for sharing everything you did. I did want to just acknowledge I was feeling so terribly about myself last week when the talk was about pushing yourself in Zen, and I was like, well, wait, I don't do that. I don't worry if I'm not, I felt like I was a slacker, and I appreciated what you said today about just take it as it comes, and that really just was very personal for me, because I tend to not push myself and was feeling lazy about that, but I appreciated everything you shared, so thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it helps me too not to push, because that's when stuff shuts down in my brain. So if I just let it happen, it's so much. I love flow. Flow works for me. I love you, Tal. Thank you.
Indeed. Sorry I'm not on camera. I just am spotty internet as it is, so I was just trying to maximize here, but thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Well, your photo is beautiful, so.
Isn't it? It's so perfect for her.
I worry it's better than the real thing.
Stop.
I have something else to share if somebody else doesn't want to.
There's time. There's definitely time.
So in terms of bridging the gap, I just want to say, I came to you and Dan through a great loss in my life.
Mm-hmm.
The loss of a sacred relationship that I had. And then you came into my life, and that swept me, that opened up this huge space for me. And all of you came into my life. And so that to me, it's like, it's one and the same. Mm-hmm. The sorrow and the joy, like it's the same. You can't have one without the other. And I am so grateful for that. Like it was so devastating. And it was also like the best thing that's ever happened, like it's incredible. And I don't know if any of you talking about this golden line of continuation of of teaching and awareness. There's the Sufi mystic poet Rumi has an incredible poem, The Guest House. And I'm just going to really quickly read part of it. It's this being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows, who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight.
So excellent. I mean, impeccable writing, impeccable living. It just comes in the words from this poet. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so appropriate. Thank you.
There's a bit more, but I mean, it's one of my favorites. But I just, the bridge is, you know, we're this shore, we're that shore, but to realize that we have to, I mean, the whole thing is just, it blows your mind. So grateful for you all.
And we are grateful for you, kiddo. Thank you so much. Soko, I see you. Can you say a few words? I'd love to hear from you.
I can. I just love you, Lori. And, you know, it's interesting being up in the Bay Area and sitting with you guys because it just pulls me back to Los Angeles. You know, 21 years in LA, and I'm like almost 10 years up here in the Bay Area.
Amazing.
But yeah, I love the Burriers. I love you guys. Such sweet memories and such heart. And I appreciate your talk very much.
Thank you.
You know, as I was sitting today, I was just realizing that sitting in that 25-minute period is like a 3-act structure of a story, and I love storytelling.
Yes.
You know, like entering into that first act with whatever is, and then getting into the second act, and like wondering what the hell the climax is gonna be. You know, is the climax gonna be the closing of that gap?
Yeah.
Or is it gonna be like samadhi, where you're just feeling like one with all, and you know, you don't even have a thought. And today it definitely was like, I just appreciate what we're going through right now, because it's just making me have to be more of who I am and be with people who are more like me.
Yes.
And
important.
also just looking at even just the last year of my life, and I have like all this shame about all these risks that I took, and it didn't end up how I wanted things to go, even though I took all these risks. But that's what we do in Zen, is you take the risk and you're like, look, oh, that was my expectation. Didn't go here. These other things, I could have done this. It would have been, you know, a deeper, more enriching experience if I would have lived, you know, all these things. So it's just such a pleasure for me right now to actually have to stop and sit with the stories of everything and like all the different ways that things could have played out or not, or it's just now. It's just, it's
yeah,
just,
I mean, that's such a great exercise to go through. I mean, and to end up with this just now is so incredible. I mean, like, if you ever had an illness that just, you couldn't get out of bed. I mean, it's like, that's it. You're just going to be in bed for a week or whatever it is. Such a great opportunity to just kind of let recent life or long periods of life events kind of play out in your head, and you can go, oh, well, that was the part where I should have shown up with something better or whatever. You know, there's always some piece in there that you need to just be frank with yourself about. And then once you've done that, you have an opportunity to just breathe. No, it's such a great gift.
yeah, just breathe. And also just to come back around again to your vulnerability. It's like just taking those bigger risks in situations where it's like, as opposed to having to look good or strong or capable or you know, I'm going to be the trustworthy one that can lean on, that people can lean on, just to be like, I'm really scared. I'm really insecure. And I need to reach out in relationship in ways that I haven't before, because I'm feeling really like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing and I need help. And so I just appreciate more and more vulnerability in all kinds of situations. And
Yeah, I think we all do. I mean, this is not a time to be, I don't know, it's an important time to deal with your life. And it's going to be like this for the rest of your life. So let's just go there. You know, be vulnerable. Let's just have it. You know, people will forgive you for whatever you're not forgiving yourself for. Go ahead, see that happen. You know, I need to see that happen instead of just being stuck in my head, afraid that people are going to, you know, think I'm a loser because I'm crying. But you know what? I am a loser and I'm crying. So whatever.
I think that's literally what I've been like sitting with today is like, I just want to like really be the loser that I am.
Get over with. Just go there.
It's making me all red. Woo!
That's your life showing up. That's your non-loser life showing up. Big smell. I love you so much. Come see us when you can. When we can.
Oh, yeah, I already was like fantasizing, like, oh, I can't wait to sit with them outside, right?
Outside, indeed. We've got the deck for it. We're gonna make it happen. It looks like it's. All right. Shalea's got her hand up. Yep.
I just wanted to thank you so much, Lori, for your wonderful talk and your vulnerability. I get emotional just even saying that out loud. And I really love the visual of shortening the gap between the two shores. I guess because I'm a creative, I do think in pictures a lot. And just having that image, as soon as you said it, it was front and center. It was just like so vivid to me. Thank you for that. I think that's really useful. And I'm reminded, wow, I honestly got really emotional just thinking about that. I think that gap gets shorter and shorter through sitting. I find that whole experience of being in the now so peaceful if I can just remind myself how that feels every time I sit. I'm reminded how that feels, I guess. And that's why sitting has become so important for me. It's just trying, not always successful, of course, but trying to get back to that place. Because it's just, you know, when you're there that's just where you're supposed to be. You just know that's the place. And I don't know, just that visual is awesome. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank Dogen, you know, thank Maezumi, thank all of the students of Maezumi who compiled this book. And it's, you know, it's a tradition of humans who have kept this alive for us. And we're benefiting from it. And we'll do the same for those to come. We really will. And, you know, when you're sitting, don't try. Because, you know, all those moments that have come to you in that beautiful, subtle way, they were just there.
Yeah.
You didn't have to try for them. They just showed up because you let go.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. We've got a few minutes till 11 and probably have room for one more or not, whatever shows up.
Now is the time where we all cry as a group for 3 minutes.
Unmuted. Have I unmuted myself?
Yes.
Well, I just want to say thank you to you, Lori, for your talk today, and to everybody for your participation. It just enriches our lives so much and gives us so much to work on and work with during the week, and makes meditation so much richer an experience to have all of you and your soulful considerations. So thank you.
Thank you, Marsh. And I got to tell you, I count you too every day. I like, are they there? It's so important to me to know that you're there, and I feel you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. With that, that, I think we'll go to the 4 vows.